The full moon hung low, a silver coin trembling in the velvet sky, and Eleanor Grayson stood alone on the hill, her frail hands clutching a shawl as thin as her fading breath. She was dying, the doctors had said, but tonight she felt alive, as if the moon itself whispered secrets only she could hear. Her eyes, clouded with age, burned with a fire that refused to dim, fixed on the glowing orb that had witnessed every moment of her life. Eleanor's heart thudded unevenly, each beat a reminder of the time slipping through her fingers. The hospice nurse had warned her against wandering out alone, but the pull of the moon was stronger than any caution. She had come to this hill every full moon for 60 years, first with Henry, then alone, each visit a pilgrimage to the life they had built together. The grass beneath her feet was worn from decades of her quiet steps, a path etched by love and loss. Henry had called her his starlight, a name that felt like a melody when he whispered it under this same sky, his arm around her, their dreams stretching as far as the horizon. Now, at 82, Eleanor felt the weight of those dreams, some fulfilled, others shattered. The cancer was merciless, eating away at her body, but it could not touch the memories that flooded her now. She closed her eyes, and the years melted away. She was 20 again, standing on this hill with Henry, his laughter warm against the cool night air. They had been so young, so certain the world would bend to their will. They married under a full moon, promising forever, not knowing how short forever could be. The wind stirred, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth, and Eleanor opened her eyes. The moon seemed closer now, as if it leaned down to listen. She whispered, "Henry, are you there?" The silence was heavy, but she felt a warmth, a presence, as if the night itself answered. She smiled, her lips trembling. "You used to call me your starlight. Do you still see me?" Her life with Henry had been a tapestry of joy and pain. They had built a small house in the valley below, raised 2 children, and weathered storms literal and otherwise. There were years of laughter, of dancing in the kitchen to scratchy radio tunes, of stolen kisses under this very moon. But there were also years of struggle. The miscarriage that left Eleanor hollow. The war that took Henry to the front lines for 2 agonizing years. The slow drift of their daughter, Clara, who left home and never returned. Each memory was a thread, woven into the fabric of who she was. Tonight, Eleanor had come to the hill with a purpose. In her pocket was a letter, its edges worn from years of being unfolded and read. Henry had written it during the war, when he was stationed halfway across the world, unsure if he'd return. "My starlight," it began. "If I don't make it back, find me in the moon. I'll be waiting." She had carried it ever since, a talisman against despair. Now, with her own days numbered, she wanted to leave something behind, something to prove they had lived, loved, and endured. As she stood, a rustle broke the silence. Eleanor turned, her heart lurching. A young woman emerged from the shadows, her face half lit by the moon. She was no older than 20, with wild curls and eyes that gleamed with a mix of fear and determination. "I'm sorry," the girl said, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to startle you. I saw you from the road. You looked like you needed help." Eleanor studied her, the girl's nervous hands twisting the hem of her jacket. There was something familiar in her features, a shadow of someone Eleanor couldn't place. "I'm fine," Eleanor said softly, though her voice wavered. "Just visiting an old friend." She gestured to the moon, and the girl's eyes followed, softening. "I'm Lily," the girl said, stepping closer. I'm kind of lost. My car broke down a mile back, and I saw you up here. I thought maybe you lived nearby." Eleanor's gaze lingered on Lily. There was a pull, an instinct she couldn't name. "I live down in the valley," she said. "But I'm not going back just yet. Stay a while, if you'd like. The moon's good company." Lily hesitated, then nodded, sitting cross-legged on the grass a few feet away. Eleanor felt a strange comfort in her presence, as if the night had sent her a companion. They sat in silence, the moon bathing them in light. Eleanor's thoughts drifted to Clara, her daughter who had vanished into the world 20 years ago. Could this girl be No? She dismissed the thought. It was too much to hope for. "Tell me something," Eleanor said suddenly, her voice stronger. "Why are you out here, alone, on a night like this?" Lily's shoulders tensed, and she looked away. "Running," she said quietly. "From a lot of things. Bad choices, mostly. I thought if I kept moving, I'd outrun them. Eleanor nodded, understanding more than Lily could know. She had run, too, in her own way, run from grief, from regret, from the fear of being alone. You can't outrun yourself, she said gently. But sometimes, the moon helps you see clearer. Lily looked up, her eyes glistening. You sound like you've been running, too. Eleanor laughed, a soft, brittle sound. Oh, I have. But I'm done now. This hill, this Munthi my last stop. The conversation flowed, tentative at first, then deeper. Lily spoke of a fractured life, of a mother she barely knew, of a longing for something she couldn't name. Eleanor listened, her heart aching with every word. There was something in Lily's voice, a cadence that echoed Clara's. But Clara was gone, wasn't she? The thought gnawed at Eleanor, a spark of hope she dared not fan. As the moon climbed higher, Eleanor reached into her pocket and pulled out Henry's letter. Read this, she said, handing it to Lily. It's the only thing keeping me here. Lily took the letter, her fingers trembling as she unfolded it. She read silently, her lips moving slightly, and when she finished, tears streaked her face. He loved you so much, she whispered. My mom used to talk about a letter like this. Said her dad wrote it. Eleanor froze, her breath catching. Your mom. Lily nodded, her voice barely audible. Her name was Clara. The world tilted. Eleanor's knees buckled, and she sank to the grass, her hands clutching the shawl. Clara, she whispered, the name a prayer, a wound, a miracle. You're her daughter? Lily's eyes widened, realization dawning. Your grandma. The moon watched as grandmother and granddaughter reached for each other, their hands trembling, their voices breaking. 60 years of love, loss, and longing collided in that moment, and Eleanor felt Henry's presence stronger than ever. She was his starlight, and now, she was something more, a beacon for the family she thought she'd lost. The moon hung higher now, its light spilling over the hill where Eleanor and Lily sat, two strangers bound by a thread of blood and time. Eleanor's heart raced, a fragile rhythm that felt both alive and impossibly heavy. Clara's daughter, her granddaughter, sat before her, a living echo of the child she'd lost to silence and distance. Lily's eyes, wide with shock, searched Eleanor's face. I didn't know, she stammered. Mom never told me about you. Not really. Just stories, bits and pieces. I thought you were gone. Eleanor's throat tightened. I thought the same about her, she whispered. Clara left when she was 18. No note, no goodbye. Just gone. The memory stung, sharp as the day it happened. Clara had been a wildfire, all passion and rebellion, clashing with Henry's quiet stubbornness and Eleanor's gentle pleas. When she left, she took a piece of Eleanor's heart, leaving a wound that never healed. Lily fidgeted with the hem of her jacket, her voice low. Mom didn't talk about her past much. She said her dad called her mom his starlight. I thought it was just a story, something she made up to make me feel safe. She paused, her gaze drifting to the letter still in her hands. But it's real. You're real. Eleanor reached out, her hand trembling as it touched Lily's. The girl's skin was warm, alive, a tether to a world Eleanor thought she'd lost. Tell me about her, Eleanor said, her voice breaking. Tell me about my Clara. Lily hesitated, then spoke, her words tumbling out like a dam breaking. Clara had been a wanderer, a painter who chased beauty in every corner of the world. She'd settled in a small coastal town, raised Lily alone, and filled their tiny apartment with canvases of stormy seas and moonlit skies. But Clara had been haunted, Lily said, by a past she never shared. She died 2 years ago, a sudden illness, leaving Lily with questions and a box of letters, one of which mentioned a hill, a moon, and a mother named Eleanor. Eleanor listened, tears streaming down her cheeks. Each word was a brushstroke, painting a picture of the daughter she'd lost. Clara had lived, loved, created, and suffered. The guilt gnawed at Eleanor. Had she failed her daughter? Could she have reached out, found her, before it was too late? The night deepened, the air growing colder. Lily shivered, and Eleanor draped her shawl over the girl's shoulders. You're freezing, she said softly. Come down to the house. I'll make tea, and we'll talk. Lily nodded, and they descended the hill, Eleanor's steps slow but steady, Lily's arm supporting her. The house in the valley was small, weathered by time, but its warmth enveloped them as they stepped inside. Eleanor lit a fire, the crackle filling the silence. She moved to the kitchen, her hands shaking as she filled a kettle, but her heart was alight with a purpose she hadn't felt in years. As the tea steeped, Lily wandered the living room, her eyes lingering on framed photos. Eleanor and Henry on their wedding day, Clara as a child, her grin wide and fearless. "This is her," Lily said, touching a photo. She looked so happy. "She was," Eleanor said, setting 2 mugs on the table. "But she was restless, too. I didn't know how to hold her without caging her." Lily sat, wrapping her hands around the mug. "She used to say she ran because she didn't know how to stay. I think she regretted it at the end." The words were a knife, but they also brought a strange peace. Eleanor sipped her tea, her mind racing. She wanted to know everything, every moment of Clara's life, every joy and sorrow. But there was something else, too, a need to give Lily what Clara never had, a home, a connection, a story to carry forward. As they talked, a knock at the door startled them. Eleanor frowned. No one visited this late. She opened the door to find a man in his 50s, his face weathered, his eyes kind but tired. "Mrs. Grayson?" he asked. "I'm Tom. I knew your daughter, Clara. I think I owe you an explanation." Eleanor's breath caught. Another piece of Clara's life, another twist in the night. She stepped aside, letting Tom in. He carried a small wooden box, its surface carved with moons and stars. "Clara asked me to bring this to you," he said, his voice heavy. "She wanted you to have it, if I ever found you." Lily's eyes widened, and Eleanor felt the world shift again. She took the box, her fingers tracing the carvings. Inside were letters, sketches, and a small Lakita locket Eleanor had given Clara on her 10th birthday. Her hands shook as she opened it, revealing a tiny photo of herself and Henry, smiling under a full moon. "Tom," Eleanor said, her voice barely a whisper. "How did you know Clara?" Tom sat, his hands clasped tightly. "I was her friend, her neighbor. She talked about you, Eleanor. She wanted to come back, but she was afraid. Afraid you'd hate her for leaving." Eleanor's heart broke anew, but there was no anger, only love. She looked at Lily, then at Tom, and felt the moon's light filtering through the window, as if guiding her. "She was my starlight," Eleanor said. "And so are you, Lily." The night stretched on, filled with stories, tears, and the slow mending of broken bonds. Eleanor knew her time was short, but for the first time in years, she wasn't alone. The moon had brought her family back, in ways she never imagined. The fire in Eleanor's small living room crackled, casting shadows that danced across the faces of 3 souls bound by a past they were only beginning to unravel. Eleanor sat with Clara's locket in her hands, its weight a quiet anchor to the daughter she'd lost and found again in fragments. Lily, her granddaughter, sipped tea across from her, while Tom, the stranger who carried Clara's final gift, shifted uneasily, his eyes fixed on the wooden box. Clara was stubborn, Tom said, breaking the silence. She'd paint until dawn, lose herself in her work. But she'd talk about you, Eleanor. She'd say, "My mother could see the world in a single moonbeam." I think she envied that. Eleanor's chest ached, a mix of grief and gratitude. She opened the box again, sifting through its contents. Sketches of the hill where she'd stood tonight, letters never sent, and a journal filled with Clara's looping handwriting. She handed the journal to Lily, who hesitated before opening it. "Read it," Eleanor urged. "It's hers. It's yours now, too." Lily's fingers trembled as she turned the pages. Clara's words spilled out poetry, confessions, regrets. One entry, dated a year before her death, read, "I ran from the hill, from Mama, from everything. I thought freedom was out there, but all I found was a longing to go home." Lily's voice broke as she read, and Eleanor reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining. Tom cleared his throat, his voice low. "Clara gave me that box a month before she passed. She said if I ever found you, I should tell you she was sorry. She thought you'd moved, that the house was gone. She didn't know you were still here." Eleanor closed her eyes, picturing Clara searching for her, lost in the world. "I waited," she said softly. "Every full moon, I waited." The room fell silent, the weight of years pressing down. Lily squeezed her hand, and Eleanor felt a spark of strength, a reason to keep breathing a little longer. The night deepened, and Tom shared more. He'd been Clara's neighbor in that coastal town, a carpenter who fixed her leaking roof and stayed for coffee, then friendship. Clara had painted him once, a portrait of a man weathered by life but softened by kindness. She was family to me, Tom said. And when she got sick, she made me promise to find you. I've been looking for 2 years. Eleanor studied Tom, seeing the lines of grief etched into his face. He wasn't just a messenger. He was another piece of Clara's life, another thread in the tapestry. Thank you, she said, her voice steady, for bringing her back to me. Lily set the journal down, her eyes red. I want to know you, she said to Eleanor. I want to know everything about you, about Grandpa Henry, about Mom. I don't want to run anymore. Eleanor smiled, though her body ached with exhaustion. Then stay, she said. This house, this healthy yours, too. She turned to Tom. And you're welcome here, for as long as you need. Tom shook his head, a faint smile breaking through. I've got a life back in the town, but I'll visit. Clara would want that. He stood, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. You've got her fire, kid. Don't let it burn you out. As Tom left, promising to return, Eleanor and Lily sat by the fire, the journal open between them. Eleanor began to speak, her voice weaving stories of Henry, his quiet humor, his love for the stars, his unshakable faith in her. She told Lily about the night Clara was born, under a full moon, her tiny cries echoing in the valley. Each story was a gift, a bridge across the years. But as dawn approached, Eleanor's strength waned. Lily noticed, her face tightening with worry. You need to rest, she said, helping Eleanor to the couch. I'm not going anywhere. Eleanor nodded, her eyes heavy but her heart full. She drifted into a light sleep, dreaming of Henry's voice calling her his starlight, of Clara's laughter, of Lily's hand in hers. When she woke, the sun was rising, painting the room gold. Lily was still there, reading the journal, her face a mix of awe and sorrow. Grandma, Lily said, the words soft but certain. There's something in here. Mom wrote about a promise she made to you. Something about a garden. Eleanor's breath caught. The garden her and Henry's dream, a patch of land behind the house where they'd planned to grow roses, lavender, and starflowers. Clara had loved it as a child, but it had fallen to weeds after she left. She promised to help me plant it, Eleanor said, her voice distant. We never did. Lily stood, determination in her eyes. Then we'll do it. For her. For you. Eleanor felt tears prick her eyes. The garden was more than flowers. It was a symbol of everything she'd held on to: hope, love, family. We'll need seeds, she said, a smile breaking through. And time. They spent the day planning, Lily's energy a stark contrast to Eleanor's fragility. They walked to the garden, now overgrown but still outlined by Henry's old stone border. Lily knelt in the dirt, pulling weeds, while Eleanor sat on a bench, offering quiet instructions. The act felt sacred, a reclaiming of what was lost. As evening fell, the moon rose again, not yet full but still bright. Eleanor looked at Lily, her granddaughter, and saw Clara's spirit in her movements. You're my starlight now, she whispered, too soft for Lily to hear. But the moon heard, and that was enough. The garden behind Eleanor's house was alive with possibility, though it was still a tangle of weeds and dreams. Lily worked tirelessly, her hands stained with earth, while Eleanor watched from her bench, her body weaker but her spirit tethered to the girl who had brought her family back. The moon, no longer full but still luminous, hung above them, a quiet witness to their labor of love. Each day, Lily returned to the garden, planting seeds they'd bought from a nursery in town: roses for Henry, lavender for Clara, starflowers for Eleanor. She spoke as she worked, sharing stories of her own life. A childhood spent chasing waves, a dream of becoming a writer, a fear of being alone. Eleanor listened, marveling at how Lily carried Clara's fire and Henry's quiet resolve. She was their legacy, a bridge between past and future. Eleanor's health was fading faster now. The hospice nurse visited daily, her face kind but grave. You need to rest, Mrs. Grayson, she'd say. But Eleanor would wave her off, her eyes on Lily. Rest could wait. This time with her granddaughter was too precious to waste. She began teaching Lily the stories of the hill, the moon, the house, every moment that had shaped her. She spoke of Henry's proposal, how he'd carved their initials into a tree on the hill, now long gone, but still alive in her memory. She told Lily about the miscarriage, the pain that had nearly broken her, and how Henry's love had held her together. One afternoon, as they sat in the garden, Lily pulled out Clara's journal again. "There's a letter in here, addressed to you," she said, her voice hesitant. "I didn't read it. It felt private." Eleanor took the letter, her hands shaking. The envelope was yellowed, sealed with wax. Clara's handwriting scrawled across it, "For Mama." She opened it, her breath shallow, and read silently. Clara's words were a confession, an apology, a love letter. "I was afraid," Clara wrote. "Afraid I'd disappoint you. Afraid I'd never be enough. I ran because I didn't know how to stay. But I carried you with me, Mama, in every painting, every moon I saw. I love you." Tears fell onto the paper, blurring the ink. Eleanor clutched the letter to her chest, feeling Clara's presence as strongly as she felt Henry's under the moon. "She loved me," she whispered, and Lily wrapped her arms around her, their tears mingling. The garden grew, slowly but surely, a testament to their shared purpose. Neighbors began to notice, stopping by with seeds or tools, drawn by Lily's energy and Eleanor's quiet grace. One evening, a small crowd gathered. Tom had returned, bringing friends from Clara's town, each carrying a story of how Clara had touched their lives. They planted a starflower together, a tribute to the woman who had connected them all. Eleanor's strength waned, but her heart was full. She spent her days with Lily, writing down her own stories in a journal for her granddaughter to keep. She wrote of Henry's laughter, Clara's rebellion, the moon that had guided her through it all. "You'll carry us forward," she told Lily one night, as they sat under the stars. "You're our starlight now." The final full moon of Eleanor's life came too soon. She was too weak to climb the hill, so Lily carried a chair to the garden, where the starflowers had begun to bloom. Eleanor sat, her shawl wrapped tightly, and looked up at the moon. Lily sat beside her, holding her hand, the journal open in her lap. "Henry," Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible. "My husband used to call me his starlight." She smiled, her eyes bright despite the pain. "I'm coming, love." Lily's grip tightened, her voice breaking. "I love you, Grandma." Eleanor squeezed her hand, her gaze fixed on the moon. "I love you too. And Clara. And Henry. We're all here, under this moon." She closed her eyes, her breath slowing, and felt a warmth envelop her, as if Henry and Clara were waiting, their arms open. The moon shone brighter, a silver coin in the sky, and Eleanor Grayson slipped away, her heart full, her legacy alive in the girl beside her. Lily stayed through the night, the journal clutched to her chest, the garden blooming around her. She looked at the moon and whispered, "I'll carry you, Grandma. I'll carry you all."